One of my main questions would be that as it stands right now, Farragut and the citizens of Farragut are responsible for those streets. If that catastrophe occurred sometime in the future, as it is at present, Farragut would be the one that would be expected to respond and resolve the problem. Now, if we go to private street, what happens? Well, responsibility would shift to the homeowners. And the homeowners, as previously stated by one of our residents, have already acknowledged that they are willing to accept that responsibility. They've already taken steps to plan and budget for it and for the maintenance of the gate, to be sure that we always have a quality gate that functions. And Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry about your gate that doesn't work, but then you said it hadn't been turned on, so it's kind of difficult to get much service out of it. But I used to live in a community in Destin, Florida. Some of you may know it. Sandestin is the name of the community. And I had an investment condo over on the beach, and I lived over in the interior across the highway there, probably a distance of 1.5 miles maybe. To get from the property on the beach there to my house, I had to go through 4 gates. 2 of them was manned 24 hours a day. 2 of them was operated off of clickers and forbs and one thing and another to give you access after daylight hours. They were manned one of them was manned during the day. One of them was not manned at all. You always had to use a device or punch in a number. And in all the time that I lived there, I never one time had any difficulty. And of course, in a resort community, you have a lot of emergency equipment needs and a lot of contractors coming and going as a result of maintaining condos. So access was freely available, can be made freely available, and I'm sure we would be very careful in the equipment that we would select for a gate. Now, I digress just a little bit. Let's get back to the point that right now, as it stands, Farragut would apparently be responsible for a catastrophic event that occurred in the Cove. And that would be the people that all you represent. Us and all the other people in Farragut would have to share in that expense. If this is changed to a private street, we've just relieved Farragut of a whole lot of liability and a whole lot of expense. Regardless, there would be expense. There would be that expense that would occur to repave the streets, to repair the streets, or do whatever. So if it remains private, you and all the residents of Farragut have the responsibility of maintaining our streets, along with all the other streets in Farragut. But we're offering to relieve you of that responsibility as far as the Cove is concerned. And we'd very much appreciate you giving serious thought to our sincerity, the fact that we are responsible and will be responsible, and would very much appreciate approval for the gate.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Sir? Can I ask you a question? Do you want to be a member of the town of Farragut? Or a citizen of the town of Farragut? A citizen of the town of Farragut?
I think he is.
Oh, I am a member, I guess.
I just wonder if you still maintain that thought. You want to maintain being a citizen of Farragut?
I'm not sure I understand the question, sir.
Well, what are your expectations of the town, your citizenship in the town?
Maintain Farragut just like they are now. It is an outstanding area, well respected in the county and in the community, and people want to live in Farragut. So yeah, I'd like for that to remain. And of course, I'm sure we would do nothing.
Be a member of the community, right?
Oh yes, I would be a member of the community.
But is that just the gated community or the community of Farragut?
Either one. Either one, I'm going to be a member of Farragut.
Okay.
Let me just address a couple of issues that were brought up. You all weren't at the meeting where we did have some preliminary discussion of numbers. That was 3 or 4 meetings ago. And at the last meeting where you all were present, you were present, Doctor, I did promise additional budget information for them to consider, and I have not provided that to anyone. And I owe that to them, and I'm going to put that together if we proceed on, and provide that to you for your review, and so that there won't be any other information that you don't know. You're entitled to that, and we're going to get it to you and to everybody else as we get it put together. So they are correct in that all of the financial information that was discussed was very preliminary, and it was at a meeting that they were not able to be present at. So we'll make that distinction, and I'm sorry that they feel that way, but I intend to try to sit down with them and show them where we think this is a good thing, and may not be able to convince them, but I'm still going to try to make all that information available so that everybody will be fully aware. Are there other residents, or do you have
Jim,
other questions? Or
Jim, I have a question for you.
Ron?
Tell me about the roads. He says 14 years, you say 21. Who's going to pave them in the end?
I didn't say 21,
Okay.
but
He said 14.
14 was the number that came around, but nobody knows what the price of asphalt is going to be at that point. But if we take the roads on, or are allowed to take the roads on into private maintenance, we intend to establish a escrow fund from the beginning that would start building on an annual basis and would provide for road repair. We intend that stormwater system would be included in that, and that all of that maintenance would be the responsibility of the homeowners association. It is true that as the developer, we're probably at some point going to sell our lots, and I guess if the economy hadn't been like it was, we might have already sold a lot more of them. But where we are right now is we still own 40 some odd of the lots. I can't tell you exactly tonight how many, but I can get that figure if you want to know it. But until we can get to the point where the homeowners will take over the homeowners association, then we still have lots and we still have votes in what goes on. And this gate and private road situation was never put forth by us as, hey, this is something we think everybody ought to do. This was one of the meetings that we had. It was mentioned. A lot of people were interested in it, and we've pursued it because it's been generated by interest within the subdivision to do it. We are willing to do it and want to do it, and would like to be given permission to do it. If there's questions and problems that need to be worked out, you all know how many times I've been down here. We'll sit down and work them out. We're not trying to push something that's not going to work. I mean, we want it to work, and we have a reputation for making things work, and we'll make this work if you'll give us permission to do it.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question. How do you propose to let future buyers know that they have the responsibility of taking care of the roads?
We have, at the closing table, we have covenants and restrictions that we can distribute. We also, those are recorded at the courthouse, available for anyone to look at. If there's some concern or question about who knows and who doesn't know about whether it'll be a private street in the future, there's plenty of ways to make that known to every resident that buys in there. We can post a sign if you want us to post a sign.
I would say it needs to be known before the person buys.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's coming from out of the state and they go in your subdivision, they buy a lot or a house or whatever.
At the closing would be before they buy. I mean,
What Ms.
when
Dick
they
is saying
buy.
is if somebody was contemplating purchasing a lot, I think that would need to be disclosed to them before they get all the way down to closing. They've already hired the moving van.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to agree. I think the disclosure issue is a big issue. To maybe shed a little light on the history of this, for 20 plus or minus years, the town of Farragut actually allowed private roads. So
I know.
the town has allowed private roads longer than it has allowed or disallowed private roads. I think as a reaction to 4 or 5 subdivisions, what year was it?
No, actually, we disallowed private roads long before I came here.
I thought it was about 99 or 2000.
No, we disallowed them for longer than that. It was just in the mid-2000s when we started accepting the roads.
Well, Glen Abbey
that
was
had
the
been
big one.
designated
Right.
private.
Uh,
So
It was not built.
Again, it had to do with the disclosure
Yeah.
issue, and I think that I think I'm open to discussing it. I think what ties me in a knot here is having one resident that came into the subdivision with certain expectations, and those expectations. To me, it's a material change. It's kind of like the plat change that happened over at the Price Farm. I mean, it was pretty significant. They went from detached to attached, and in my mind here, this is a pretty significant change. This isn't just building a pergola in the neighborhood. This is a pretty significant change to the neighborhood, and I think I'm kind of open-minded to exploring what's involved with private roads, because there's no doubt that there's a wave in development that there is more private roads. You do see a lot of areas, especially retirement type communities, that have private and gated subdivisions. But I think in this particular scenario, I have a real tough time going against that one homeowner, even though it's only one. To me, I think it would have to be unanimous to say, hey, I know you came in with these expectations, but we're going to, by majority vote, change something that you were provided in the beginning.
Well, I think that's getting to unanimity is clear it's not going to happen. I would suggest, though, that a scenario that we might consider, and we're making it up as we go here, is that there's 74 lots. I believe 73 are in favor. I may be off by one, but I believe 73 are in favor. We can take the roughly $750 in initial fee and divide it by 74. I think that'll cost us each $10 a person. And we can take the additional $250 roughly per year, divide it by 74, and I think that's $3 a person a year. I think we'll probably all agree to that. So I think we'll relieve them of their responsibility. We'll take a vote on that. Everybody moving into the neighborhood will make it real clear. In fact, and it'll be real clear that this is what they're getting. And it was real clear when we bought in, this is what our fees are going to be. Our lawn was going to cost us $1,400. Our mailbox was going to cost us $250. There was no question about what it was going to cost us. Quite frankly, it was an insignificant part of the whole package, but we will make it really clear to everybody. But if that resolves it and it arrests your concern about that, we could...
Ultimately, I think Dr. Serrani's concerns probably are what and there was other things that was brought up by her husband beyond the financial burden